Happiness is the art of learning how to get joy from your substance.
That's Jim Rohn.
It is. And it's one of those sentences, it's only 11 words. Grammatically, it's super simple. But when I read that in the stack you put together for today, I actually had to stop. I just put my tablet down on the table because it felt, I don't know, almost countercultural, subversive even.
It's a complete violent collision with the modern world, isn't it?
Okay.
I mean, we are living in an era that just screams the exact opposite.
Completely.
If you really look at the messaging that bombards us from the moment we wake up to the moment we scroll ourselves to sleep, the world is constantly telling us that happiness is an acquisition model.
An acquisition model, that's a great way to put it. It's an import business.
It is an import business. You're importing happiness from a car dealership or, from a promotion at work or from the number of strangers who happen to click a little heart button on a screen.
Right, it's all external, it's out there. We're basically told to be hunters, gathering these little pellets of happiness from the environment around us.
Yeah.
But Ron, he's talking about substance. And that's such a heavy word, it feels almost Victorian or something, a person of substance. What are we actually talking about here? Because I'm pretty sure he doesn't just mean owning a lot of real estate or having a heavy gold watch.
No, not at all. And this is where we really have to define our terms right at the top, or the rest of this whole deep dive just won't make any sense.
Okay.
In the context of the research we have here, and we're pulling from, like Seth Godin, Stephen Pressfield, even military history and philosophy substance, is the internal aggregate.
The internal aggregate.
Yeah, it's the sum total of your skills, your character, your experiences, your unique perspective, and maybe most importantly, your capacity to endure. It's what's left of you if you were, say, stripped naked, fired from your job, and completely deleted from the internet.
And that is a genuinely terrifying thought for a lot of people today. I mean, what is left when the signal dies?
Exactly.
If the honest answer to that question is nothing, then we have a massive problem.
A huge problem. And that fear, that deep-seated fear that there is no substance, or maybe that our substance isn't enough, that's what drives the central conflict we're unpacking today. We have a stack of sources that all, in their own way, point to one central crisis. We are so busy shouting to prove we exist that we never actually take the time to build the substance that makes our existence enjoyable.
We're prioritizing the broadcast over the programming.
Perfectly said, yeah.
So our mission today, then, is to kind of reverse that. We're going to look at what Seth Godin calls the trap of selfish shouting. We're going to dissect a pretty intense military strategy from 1967 called Embrera to figure out how to stop procrastinating. And ultimately, we're going to figure out how to, as Ron says, master the art of enjoying what we've already built.
It's a fundamental shift, a shift from, let's say, performative noise to quiet authority. It's about moving from anxiety to real agency.
I love that. Okay, so let's start with the noise. Section 1. This all revolves around Seth Godin, and he has this concept of selfish shouting. Now, Godin is, he's known as a marketing guy, but this reads a lot more like psychology or even sociology.
Well, I've always thought Godin is a philosopher who just disguises himself as a marketer. It's his Trojan horse.
Right.
He defines selfish shouting as the relentless promotion of ideas, products, or just yourself, really, to anonymous masses of people who never asked for it in the first place.
He calls it the megaphone mindset.
The megaphone mindset.
And I think we've all been guilty of this, haven't we? I mean, you have an idea or you launch some little project or you write a blog post and you feel this sense of entitlement, like I made this, therefore the world should stop and look at it.
That is the core error right there. The megaphone mindset makes this fatal assumption that volume equals value. It assumes that if people aren't listening, the problem must be the volume. I just need to post more. I need to send more emails. I need to yell louder. Godin calls this the mantra of the hype-hustling promoter.
Yeah.
But what the sources we've gathered suggest is that this isn't just a bad marketing tactic. It's actually a symptom of a very deep anxiety.
An anxiety about what, specifically?
Anxiety about the substance. I mean, think about it for a second. If you are truly deeply confident in the value of what you have to offer, if you know your substance is undeniable, you don't really feel the need to scream. You just present it.
You're calm.
You're calm. When you're insecure about the value, that's when you try to drown out that insecurity with noise. You start confusing two very different things: visibility and validation.
Okay, distinguish those for me.
Huh?
Because in the metric-obsessed world we live in, they can look almost identical. If I get 1 million views on something, isn't that a form of validation?
I'd argue they're actually opposites. Visibility is impressions. It's eyeballs. It's easy to count. It feels good, and it soothes the ego. Look, 5,000 people saw my thing.
Right. It's a sugar rush.
It's a total sugar rush. Validation, on the other hand, is impact. Did it change someone's mind? Did it solve a genuine problem for them? Did it actually matter? The selfish shouter chases impressions because impact is, well, it's really hard to measure and it takes a very long time to achieve.
It's the difference between being a celebrity and being a leader.
That's a fantastic distinction, yeah. One is about being seen, the other is about creating change.
It's a sugar rush versus a nutritious meal. So if the megaphone is broken, and Godin makes a pretty compelling case that in the age of algorithms, the megaphone is definitely broken, what's the alternative? He talks about this concept, First 10.
First 10. It is the complete antidote to the mass market spray and pray approach.
It sounds dangerously small, though. Find 10 people. I mean, if you're trying to build a career or a business, 10 people sounds a lot like failure. It sounds like a dinner party, not a market.
And that right there is precisely why most people fail. Because they try to skip the 10 to get to the million.
Okay, so walk me through the logic.
Godin's logic is actually really rigorous here. He says, find 10 people, just 10. People who already trust you or respect you or genuinely need what you have to offer. And then you serve them with your substance.
Serve them how? Like, what does that look like in practice?
You give them your best work, your writing, your product, your advice, your art, whatever your substance is.
Yeah.
And here is the crucial mechanism. This is what he calls the litmus test.
Okay.
If those 10 people truly love it, and I don't just mean they politely nod because they're your friends or your mom. I mean, they're obsessed with it. They find real utility in it. It changes their day.
They're telling people about it without you even asking.
Exactly. They will naturally go out and find 10 more people. They become your voluntary ambassadors, your evangelists.
So you're talking about network effects, the trusted referral, the thing that actually works.
Precisely. That is how a real tidal wave happens. It's organic. It builds from a tiny nucleus of genuine, undeniable value. But here's the scary part, and this is why so many people avoid this strategy. What if they don't love it?
Right. Then you're just stuck with 10 disappointed friends and a pretty bruised ego.
And that is the crucial moment of truth. The shouter, the person with the megaphone, would immediately blame the audience. Oh, the algorithm hid my post. Oh, people are just stupid. The market isn't ready for my genius.
Yeah, the excuses.
The excuses.
Yeah.
The person who's following the first 10 strategy, they have to accept a much harder truth, which is my substance wasn't good enough.
Wow.
You don't need a bigger megaphone. You need a better product.
Yeah.
You need to go back and understand those 10 people on a much deeper level.
It completely removes the excuse. It strips away your ability to hide behind the noise of distribution. It forces you to look at the actual quality of the work, not just the quantity of your marketing.
It shifts your entire posture. You stop being a hunter trying to capture attention, and you start being a host trying to sustain a relationship.
A host. I like that.
Godin points out that our culture is obsessed with the big launch. You know, the Steve Jobs keynote, the confetti cannon, the big press release.
The grand opening. Everyone wants that velvet rope drop moment.
Right. But if you look at the energy curve of a big launch, it's this massive, unsustainable spike of effort and money, and then it just tails off almost immediately. It's a sugar crash.
And it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. Godin argues this is completely backward. Real, lasting impact is a gradual build. It starts flat. It serves 10 people, then maybe 20, then 40. It compounds over time.
Yeah.
If you focus on the launch, you're focusing on the hype. If you focus on the first 10, you're focusing on the substance.
And just speaking practically, the gradual build requires a ton of patience. It requires a deep faith in your substance. If you know the donut is good, you don't mind waiting for people to discover it and taste it.
Yes.
But if you suspect the donut is actually a little bit stale, you want to sell them all in the first 5 minutes before anyone notices.
That's a brilliant way to put it. The haste, the shouting, the hype, it's all evidence of the insecurity.
Okay, so we have a strategic target now. Stop shouting at strangers. Find and serve the smallest viable audience. That sounds, well, it sounds manageable, but, and this is a big but, we both know it's not that simple.
Not at all.
Even when I know I only need to write for 10 people, I still find myself staring at a blank screen. I still find myself, scrolling through Instagram instead of doing the work. I'll find any excuse, organizing my desk, making more coffee instead of writing the proposal.
And now we are leaving the marketing department and we are entering the war room.
Laughs, the war room.
Because knowing who to serve doesn't help one bit if you can't get yourself to actually do the work. And this brings us to Stephen Pressfield.
The author of The War of Art. He talks about resistance with a capital R.
Resistance. The enemy within. Pressfield's argument is that resistance is a force of nature. It's as objective and impersonal as gravity. Its entire purpose is to stop you from doing your work, from realizing and shipping your substance. It's the force that prevents your lower self from evolving into your higher self.
And the sources here point out that resistance has a favorite weapon.
It does. Its favorite weapon is time.
How does it use time against us? I mean, I usually think of time as a resource that I use.
Resistance feeds on hesitation. The moment you have a good idea, let's say, I'm going to send this draft to my 10 people. Resistance whispers, wait.
Just hang on a second.
You're not quite ready yet. You should research this a little bit more. Do you have the right font? Maybe you should get a certification in this before you dare to speak about it.
Oh, that's a killer one. I need one more credential.
It's a classic. The longer the gap between the idea and the action, the stronger resistance becomes. Time allows that little seed of fear to metastasize into a full-blown tumor of self-doubt.
It allows us to intellectualize our cowardice. We'll dress it up and call it preparation, but what it really is paralysis.
Exactly. We rationalize the delay. I'm just being thorough. I believe in quality. No, you're being afraid. So the only effective counter-strategy has to be speed. But not just hurrying.
Okay.
The source material pivots here to a very intense military analogy. General Israel Tell. June 1967, the Six-Day War.
This is such a vivid, high-stakes shift in the text. I think we need to set the scene properly because the stakes are what make the lesson so powerful.
Please do.
So picture the context. It's early June, the Sinai Desert. The Israeli Armored Division is poised on the border with Egypt. They are massively outnumbered. They are facing 7 entrenched Egyptian divisions. To succeed, they have to cross a vast hostile desert to reach the Suez Canal. And the survival of their entire nation is, quite literally, on the line. This isn't about a business plan. This is about extinction versus survival.
And in that moment, General Tall gives a briefing to his commanders. He knows that if they stop, they die. If they hesitate for even a moment, they get flanked and annihilated.
He uses a Hebrew phrase that becomes the entire doctrine for the battle, umbrella.
Which means no alternative.
He tells them, and this is a quote, "The battle tomorrow will be life and death. There will be no retreat, no halt, no hesitation, only forward assault."
Only forward assault. Pressfield takes this military doctrine, which was about tanks and artillery and crossing physical terrain, and he applies it directly to the creative process. He calls it blitzkrieg.
Lightning war, strike fast, strike hard, stop for nothing.
It's about overwhelming the enemy before they have a chance to organize. In the military context, the enemy was the Egyptian defensive line. In the creative context, the enemy is resistance. You have to overwhelm your own self-doubt with sheer focused speed.
I have to play devil's advocate for a second here. In a war, okay, sure, you crash through because you have to. But in creative work, in building a business, stop for nothing sounds, well, it sounds reckless. If I write a code base or a legal brief or a chapter of a book with a blitzkrieg mindset, isn't it just going to be garbage? Isn't quality the first victim of speed?
That is a fantastic and critical question. You had to distinguish between the draft and the product.
Okay.
Pressfield is talking about the drafting phase, the phase where you are pulling substance out of your head and getting it down into reality. That is the moment where resistance is most likely to kill you. If you stop to polish every sentence or refactor every line of code, you stall. You start judging the work before it even exists.
So the blitzkrieg is about covering the canvas.
It's about covering the canvas. It's about getting the lump of clay on the wheel. It's about getting that messy, terrible, embarrassing first version completed.
So it's really about outrunning your own inner critic, your own perfectionism.
Perfectionism is just resistance in a tuxedo.
I love that.
It looks all fancy and sophisticated, talks about high standards, but its real job is to stop you from ever finishing. The goal of the blitzkrieg is to create momentum. Once the draft exists, once the mess is on the page, then you can switch mindsets. You can become the craftsman, the editor, the refiner. But you cannot refine a blank page. You cannot edit a fantasy in your head.
That makes perfect sense. You can fix a bad page, but you can't fix a blank one. There's a line in the source material, sharpen your tools. And usually we think that means prepare. Go to school, read the manual, buy the best software.
Right. We think sharpening is a separate phase that happens before the real work. I can't start writing until I have the perfect desk set up. I can't start the business until I have the MBA.
The ultimate form of resistance.
Exactly. The text here argues that the sharpening happens through the work. The blade is honed by the act of cutting. You don't become a great writer by studying grammar books for 10 years. You become a writer by writing thousands of bad drafts until they start to become good drafts.
It completely redefines the learning process. Learning isn't a passive absorption of information. It's an active friction against a problem.
The Umbrera mindset, the no alternative mindset, means you burn the boats. You don't give yourself the out of, I'll do it later when I'm more prepared.
Yeah.
You put yourself in a position where the only way out is through.
Okay, so if we combine Godin and Pressfield, we get this really powerful loop. First, you identify your 10 specific people who actually matter. Then you launch a blitzkrieg of action to serve them. Don't hesitate. Don't ask for permission. Just go.
They're simple strategies,
Yeah.
but they are extremely difficult to execute because at their core, they require a tremendous amount of courage.
Well, and it's also difficult because you have to have something to give them. You can't just blitzkrieg with empty hands. If you run across the desert with no ammo in your tank, you just die faster.
Very good point.
Which leads us right into section 3, the actual substance itself. We need to define what makes a person substantial. The text has a great line. Become the world's greatest expert on who you are.
Which, on the surface, sounds like the tagline for a narcissist's convention. Hello, I am an expert on me.
Right. Let me tell you more about my favorite subject.
But in this context, it's about utility. It's almost about supply chain management. If you are the factory, you have to know what you produce. What is your core competency? Are you a writer, a connector, a strategist, a builder? If you don't have a clear inventory of your values, your strengths, and, importantly, your limitations, you end up saying yes to everything.
And you become a generic commodity. You become part of the noise.
Exactly. There's a quote in here from David Kushiri. Putting less on your plate is a great life lesson.
Right.
And just think about the mechanism of that. You can only put less on your plate if you know what actually belongs there in the first place. If you don't know who you are, you're terrified of missing out on some opportunity, so you grab at everything that flies by.
Self-expertise allows you to calmly say, no, I don't do that, but I do this. It allows for focus. And the sources give us a very specific hierarchy for building this self-knowledge. I found this part fascinating. It's a numbered list of priorities, and the order seems to be the entire secret sauce. I want to walk through this. It goes,
Be a good person.
be a good student.
Be a good teammate. And finally, 4, be a good athlete.
This feels like it comes from a high-performance sports context, doesn't it? Maybe a legendary coach like John Wooden or Bill Belichick, or just a wise mentor passing on what works. But look at the architecture of that list.
That's what struck me. The athlete, the performance, the winning, the stats, the part of life we usually obsess over, is dead last.
It's last because performance is fragile. Performance is the fruit, not the root of the tree. If your entire identity is built on being a good athlete, on winning the game, getting the deal, hitting the revenue target, what happens when you get injured? What happens when the market crashes? What happens when you inevitably age out?
You collapse. You have a complete identity crisis because the athlete part of you is gone.
You have no substance underneath to catch you when you fall. So the base of the pyramid has to be good person, character, integrity, how you treat the person who can do nothing for you, how you act when you're losing. Then on top of that, good student. That's about curiosity, humility, the ability to learn new things and adapt. Then, good teammate. That's collaboration, making the people around you better. Then, and only then, do you worry about performance.
And most of the selfish shouters we were talking about earlier, they are desperately trying to start at step 4.
They're trying to be the star athlete without ever being the student or the teammate. They want the gold medal, but they don't want the character development that makes the medal meaningful. And that, in a nutshell, is why they have to shout. Because there is no gravity to their character to attract people naturally. If you build the base person, student, teammate, the athlete part, the performance, it almost takes care of itself. And even if you lose the game, you're still a solid human being at the end of the day.
That resilience is everything. There's another really important nuance in the good person section, and it's about compassion. The text says, if your compassion, love, and respect doesn't include yourself, it is incomplete.
This is the safety net for the blitzkrieg. It has to be. Because when you attack your work with that umbrella intensity, you are going to fail sometimes. You are going to produce bad first drafts. You are going to get rejected by one of your first 10. You are going to trip and fall in the desert.
It's inevitable.
It is. And if you don't have self-compassion, that first failure stops you in your tracks. You beat yourself up, you call yourself a fraud, and resistance wins the war.
This also links self-respect to the idea of give respect, get respect.
Yeah, we often think of respect as something we demand from other people. Respect my authority. But the source material argues that respect is an echo. If you treat yourself like a cheap commodity, if you sell out your own values to follow the herd, if you shout just to get attention, you are broadcasting to the world that your substance is cheap. You are disrespecting your own substance first.
Don't follow the herd. That's the hard part, isn't it? The herd is safe. The herd is warm. There's comfort in consensus.
The herd is safe, but the herd is, by definition, average. If you follow the herd, you're surrendering your unique substance to fit into a pre-existing template. You're solving the wrong problem. You're solving for fitting in rather than standing out by being valuable. And to bring it back to Godin, you cannot effectively serve your specific first 10 if you're just acting like everyone else. Your first 10 need you, not a cheap copy of someone else.
Okay, let's just take a second and look at the full picture we built so far. We have the target, the first 10. We have the engine, blitzkrieg action. And we have the foundation, character and self-knowledge.
Okay.
But there's one critical piece left, and it brings us right back to where we started, to Jim Rohn. How do we actually enjoy this process? How do we find the art of happiness in the middle of the grind? Because, let's be honest, a blitzkrieg through the desert doesn't sound very happy.
No, it doesn't. And that's section 4, the art of living. This is all about perspective. It's about cognitive framing.
We have a little verse in the stack from a McLandberg Wilson. It says, "Twixt optimist and pessimist, the difference is droll. The optimist sees the donut, the pessimist, the whole."
It's a nursery rhyme on the surface, isn't it? It sounds like something you'd read to a toddler, but it's actually a deeply rigorous cognitive framework.
Because the donut and the whole, they occupy the same space. You can't have one without the other. They're two sides of the same coin.
We're the same reality. The donut is your substance. It's what you have, the skills you possess, the friends in your life, the health you currently enjoy. The whole is the lack. It's what you don't have. The missing followers, the missing money, the missing praise from a critic. The selfish shouter is obsessed with the whole, I don't have 1 million followers, I don't have that award yet. That scarcity mindset is what creates the anxiety that drives the desperate shouting.
And the person who finds joy in their substance.
They focus on the dough. I have these specific skills. I have this interesting project right in front of me. I have these 10 people who are counting on me. When you focus on the donut, you are operating from a sense of abundance. And this is critical. You can only be truly generous if you feel abundant.
It's a huge point.
If you feel like you're lacking, you become needy. You start trying to take from your audience, take their attention, take their money, take their approval.
And audiences can smell neediness from a mile away. It's a very specific, very repelling scent.
Instantly. It just repels them. Please like my post is neediness. Here is something I made that I think will help you, is generosity. And you can only do the second one if you genuinely appreciate your own substance first.
The text suggests a practical way to do this, starting each day with a grateful heart, which, again, can sound like a cliche you'd see on a throw pillow in an Airbnb.
It can.
But within the system we're building, it seems much more like a tactical calibration.
It is entirely tactical. It's about consciously recalibrating your reticular activating system, your brain's internal radar. If you don't consciously tune your brain to look for your substance, for the donut, it will default to looking for the whole. That's just an evolutionary survival mechanism. We are wired to scan for threats and lack.
So gratitude is the manual override.
It's the manual override. It forces your brain to catalog its assets before it starts obsessing over its liabilities.
We have one more animal metaphor on the stack. We've had the herd, now we have the owl. A wise old owl sat in an oak. The less he spoke, the more he heard.
The perfect anti-shouter.
But is the owl just passive? Is he just sitting up there meditating in the tree, detached from everything?
No, absolutely not. The owl is a predator, a highly effective one. The owl sits in silence so that it can observe the landscape with total unpolluted clarity. It listens. It watches. And because it isn't making a bunch of noise itself, it can actually hear the signal. It can hear the tiny mouse rustling in the grass 100 yards away.
And when it finally moves,
It strikes. It's the blitzkrieg again. It's strategic patience followed by swift, decisive action. The shouter is just flailing around, making noise, scaring off all the prey. The owl waits, understands the terrain, and then executes with lethal precision. This connects right back to substance. You gather substance by listening, not by talking.
Which leads us perfectly to Ernest Hemingway, a man who knew a thing or two about substance and silence and decisive action. The quote is, "Life isn't hard to manage when you've nothing to lose."
Classic Hemingway. Brutal, simple, and incredibly freeing.
But nothing to lose. On the surface, that sounds kind of depressing. Or maybe reckless, like a gambler who's already lost his house and doesn't care anymore.
You have to read it through the lens of ego. When do we feel like we have something to lose? It's when we are protecting an image, when we are defending a carefully constructed facade.
Right.
If I launch this and it fails, I'll look stupid. If I say this, I might lose my status in the group. If I admit I don't know the answer, I lose my illusion of authority. We spend so much energy just hoarding our reputation.
We become PR agents for ourselves instead of actually living our lives.
That's it, exactly. The management that Hemingway says is so hard is the exhausting, full-time job of maintaining a lie. If you drop the facade, if you decide you genuinely don't care about impressing the anonymous masses, if you decide to focus on the donut and not the whole, what do you really have to lose? Nothing. You are just you. You are your substance. Take it or leave it.
The source material lists the side effects of reaching this state. It says you can hug harder, laugh louder, smile bigger, love longer.
And those aren't just fluffy, sentimental emotions. Those are efficiency metrics. When you aren't allocating 80% of your mental energy to the constant anxious loop of what do they think of me, you suddenly have 100% of your energy available to actually live, to connect with those 10 people, to do the work, to enjoy the substance.
And our last piece of the puzzle comes from Albert Camus. Real generosity toward the future lies in giving all to the present.
This is the ultimate cure for that future-tripping anxiety we all feel. We worry constantly about the result. The tidal wave, the money, the exit strategy, that's all in the future, Camus says. You can't control that. You can't manipulate the future. The only way to build a good future is to absolutely nail the present.
Do the work today. Serve the 10 people today. Eat the donut today.
If you give your substance fully and generously to the present moment, the future tends to take care of itself. That is the joy of enough. Not settling for less, but realizing that enough, what you have right now, is the only solid ground you can build on. You can't build a house on a foundation that doesn't exist yet. You build on what you have.
You know, it is a remarkably coherent philosophy for such a diverse group of thinkers. You've got a French philosopher, an American novelist, an Israeli general, a marketing guru, and a self-help legend, all pointing to the same path.
They really are.
1. Stop shouting at strangers. Serve the few who matter. That's Godin. 2. Know your own value from the inside out. That's the self-expert. 3. Overcome your internal fear with speed and momentum. That's Pressfield and General Tao. And 4. Do the work right now with gratitude for what you have. That's Camus in the donut.
It's an operating system, a complete operating system for a life of substance. It takes the focus off the other, their approval, their metrics, and puts it back on the self and the work.
So let's wrap this all up by giving you, the listener, a way to actually install this new operating system. We need a challenge. We need to take this out of the abstract and make it concrete.
We need to combine the first 10 with the blitzkrieg.
Okay, so here is the question for you listening right now. If you could strip away the need to impress the millions, if you just deleted the follower counts and the imaginary applause from your mind, and you had to identify just 10 specific people to serve with your absolute best work.
Who are they? I mean, actually write down their names. Not customer avatars, not demographics, real names. Bob, Sarah, your boss, your sister, your most important client.
And this is the uncomfortable part. What is the one thing you have been hesitating to give them? What is the draft, the phone call, the project, the gift?
Yeah.
The thing you have been holding back on because resistance has its claws in you.
Identify the 10, identify the thing, and then
In Brera, no alternatives.
strike fast, strike hard, ship it before you can let resistance talk you out of it.
And don't forget to enjoy the donut while you're doing it. The joy is in the doing, not in the outcome.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Now go find your substance. We'll see you next time.